Hello, everybody. This is Brad Cairns coming at you from the very first episode of The Shop Floor. This is going to be a podcast dedicated to everything and anything woodworking. We're not limiting it to lean. We're not limiting it to just business. We're going to cover the entire spectrum. So hopefully you enjoy our series. Without further ado, we're going to dive in. And one of the first things that we talked about when we decided to do a podcast was, what should the first one be? Should we just dive right in, start talking about flow or batch size or something? And then it occurred to us, we've been yapping at you for like 15 years about lean and, on our YouTube channels and stuff, but a lot of people don't know who we are, where we came from. So today I'm here uno solo. So I thought I'd just make this first episode dedicated to just getting to know Brad a little. So what I did was I just put it out to our social media channels and asked anyone if they had any questions that they wanted to know. Collected all the questions and then just, pop them up here, and I'm going to kind of run through the questions, answer them. And by the end of this podcast, we'll get to know each other a little bit. And then in episode 2, we'll dive right in. But along the way in this episode is going to be a lot of lessons that I learned, advice that I've got. I can tell I breezed through the questions. I haven't rehearsed them or anything, but I think there's going to be a lot of meat and potatoes even in this podcast as we get to know each other. So without further ado, let's get started on the first question. So the first question was, when did you know you were going to be a woodworker? I mean, looking back, you could tell very early on that I was dedicated to build stuff, and that was going to be my lot in life. I always loved going to my grandparents' house because, he had a garage. This is doing no one who's listening any good, but I'm holding up some pictures of the garage that I used to love going to. My grandfather built that garage, and there was always wood there, so I was always able to run in there and build stuff. Most notably, number one project was this baby right here. This thing is lovingly called the Cadillac. This was an early on project, and the irony of having a cabinet door on my first car, you'll soon learn, is kind of entertaining. And then, from there as a child, I always loved trying to make money. I would be doing garage sales and bake sales, and I mean, you name it, I was doing it. But the funny thing that I used to do is I would take those dollar bills at the time, and those are real dollar bills, not like the metaphorical dollar bill that people talk about now. These are like paper dollar bills. And I would take them in my room and I would iron them until they're crisp and flat and perfect, just like they came from the mint. So maybe I had a little obsession with money early on, but it seemed to have served me well when I was 15. That's me there. My God. Check that guy out. That was me, and my first customer was a gentleman named Tom Jarrett, and he owned a store called the Water Store, and we would build these water stands for him. Me would build these water stands for him. And so basically it was him and my mom that had to buy everything that I built. And I had a little shop in the basement. And then my mom broke it to me one day. She said, you're going to need another customer. And I kind of was like, okay, I guess I can't just build my mom's stuff forever. So anyway, that's when we started looking for other customers. And I would build anything and everything for anyone who wanted it. And I do remember one of my friends' mom bought a cabinet from me. And looking back, it was the worst cabinet I've ever built in my life. It was so bad. To this day, I think about it and I have this guilty feeling. But Denise, if you ever hear this podcast, I thank you for the positive reinforcement of that piece of trash you bought from me. Sorry. Okay, anyway, enough about my childhood basement shop stories. Next question. Who are some of your early influential people in life? This is a great question. I would say probably number one, if not my mom, I'm thinking outside of my parents, would be my high school shop teacher, go figure. But I have two very distinct memories from him. And one was me pissing him off and running for the door. And I just got to the other side of the door. I closed it behind me and I heard a big bang on the door. And I was like, what? And I opened the door and there's a huge 2x4 laying there. He had hurled that across the shop at me. Despite that story, I loved the man, and I think he liked me too, because my other memory of that shop year was I was doing something on the table saw, and it wasn't just cutting a piece of wood. It was like some freaky move, and he came over and he grabbed me by the scuff of the shirt and he pulled me in like nose to nose, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "You know what? I'm tired of you always picking on me, or, everyone else gets away with murder around here, and you are just up my butt all the time about everything. I saw Joe doing this exact thing 2 days ago, and I know you saw him." And he pulled me in even closer, and he says, "It's because you got it, and he doesn't." And so that shut me up right away. And I guess it was nice to see that someone thought that I had a little bit of talent to offer the woodworking industry, at least when I was 14 years old. So that was Mr. Shaw. Did you ever go to college or university? Yes. I attended college, 3-year course, some technology course or something. And the highlight there was that I failed. Yeah, I failed woodworking class. There's irony. If you thought this cabinet door on my car was ironic, how about me failing shop class? But there's a bit of a story there. So when I had got to college, I'd already been doing my own thing for probably 3 years-ish. I managed to get a few little customers here and there. And then I get to college and I open the doors and it's a 40,000 square foot shop full of machines. And I was just like, whoa, let's rock. So you could work in the evening if you wanted. They let you go into the shop and do things. And so me and my partner in crime, lovingly referred to as Big Al, we would go in at night and build so much stuff you couldn't even imagine. I mean, we built boardroom tables and podiums and kitchens, and we had this idea to build shelves with little pegs in them. I mean, we were cranking it out. It was a production facility at night for us. And the rule at the college was we can't mark anything that you sell, which kind of seems like it defeats the purpose, but whatever. So whatever. I mean, we had bills to pay, and we needed beer money. So that trumped getting a good grade. And it was the last week of school, and the teacher's like, "Hey, Brad, you don't have a shop project for us to mark." I was like, "Yeah, you're right. Okay, sure, I'll build a coffee table." So I built this coffee table, like little cabriole legs and a checkerboard in the top. And I got it done on time, no problem. And so I got a decent mark on the table, but they were marking us on the breakout, the sub-assembly, the assembly, the whitewood sanding, the staining, the finishing, and then the final product. And so I had missed all of those dates along the way, and 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, and the net result of a decent table at the end was a fail. And I remember asking the teacher, I'm saying, "So you're telling me that we built all of this stuff. We got customers, we serviced customers, we built their products, we delivered their products, we installed their products, we got paid for it, and I still got my project done on time, and I fail, but Mike over there who built like a clock is going to pass." Anyway, Mike passed, Brad failed. That was my college experience, but I wouldn't take it back. We had a great time, and I did do some co-ops throughout that, and one of them was at a place called Mother Hubbard's Cupboards. And to this day, I still talk to the owner once in a while. His name is Joe, and he had some great advice for me. I like to pay it forward to everybody listening right now. He was a great businessman, and he said, "Brad, I'm going to tell you, never forget where something comes from." At the time, like most good advice, it didn't make a lot of sense. But as time passed, I have come to reflect on that advice a lot. And I think it served me well. So I hope it serves you well too. Next question. When and where was your first shop? My first shop was in Toronto, Canada, Ontario, and it was 2,500 square feet, one employee, and I had done a co-op for them in high school, and I just kind of remembered the company and came back to them when I got out of college. And when I walked in the door, the owner, Arvo, he came over. He's like, "Hey, Brad, oh, great to see you. Are you looking for a job?" And I said, "Well, Arvo, I kind of have something different in mind. I wouldn't mind buying the company from you." And he had only run it as a hobby, as his retirement hobby. So he was ready to retire again anyway. So we struck a deal for $30,000. I got 2,500 square feet, an SCM sliding table saw, and an old GMC van. And that was it. Off we went. At the time, we did a lot of work for the Royal Ontario Museum. We went from just building the plinths to building the entire gallery. And we did that for years and years and years. And that wasn't bad. We ended up buying our first CNC probably 5 years in. And at the time, not many people had CNC routers. And so it kind of pushed us into the component supply area, which then was a nudge. We did a lot of components for store fixtures. And then it nudged us into healthcare, where we really sunk our teeth into the component supply in healthcare. So we're ticking along doing the healthcare thing for a few years, and things are happening. We moved out to St. Thomas. It was about 2 hours outside of Toronto. We kept doing the healthcare thing. I partnered up with another amazing cabinet maker, and we rebranded the company from Interior Specialties to Signature Wood Systems. And one day we opened the mail, and it was a letter, maybe one paragraph long, that said, "Thank you for all of your hard work. We're all getting all of our parts in Mexico now. Your contracts will all be over at the end of the month." And we're like, oh, we're blindsided. We went from that was, that one customer was 80 or 90% of our business. So lesson number 2, don't put all your eggs in one basket. We all know it, but sometimes it's tempting, and that one really got us. So we pivoted from healthcare component supply to millwork because it was an easy pivot. Basically, in the millwork world, if you can read a drawing and you can screw up a quote and be the low bid, then you get the job. And so we got really good at getting the job. We'll talk about millwork in another podcast all on its own. So we were doing this millwork for a while, and the problem with the millwork was we couldn't get paid. We would do the jobs, and then these GCs would just drag their feet, and it just seemed like a bad idea. Nevertheless, we kept doing it. We just got deeper and deeper and deeper. And, at some point, it's game over. So the next chapter of my life there was bankruptcy. And looking back on it, I don't know that necessarily I would take it back either. We learned a lot during that process. Giving up wasn't really in our blood at the time, so we just started another company, flipped most of our assets, dumped one, started another, and kept going. And I remember waking up one day and getting out of bed and knowing the change on my nightstand was the only money I had. And I scraped it off the nightstand, and I looked in my hand. I will never forget this. It was $4.65 in my hand. And I had options, right? I could wallow, I could give up, I could just stop. But it wasn't a moment's notice. I looked down, I was like, sweet, 2 boxes of Kraft dinner, 2 cans of tuna, I can make it 2 days, let's go. Put it in my pocket, straight back to the shop, keep working. For some people, maybe that needs to happen. For me, I'll never forget that moment. That was my rock bottom moment. And it really gives you an appreciation, a way greater appreciation as you start to climb the ladder again, and you start to realize what where you can get to, how far down you can go before it's game over. And so I came within $4.65 of everything being over. But, as you can see, or soon will, it wasn't game over. That was just the beginning. I did have a tragic moment in 2009. My mom had died, and we all go through that, right? Our parents are going to die. So she was always a pretty big believer in me, or so I thought. And her literal dying words were, "Brad, please do not put any of the money you get from me into that company." And I assured her that I would grant that dying wish. And so I didn't get a lot of money for her, but what I did get, I immediately bought a CNC router and a beam saw and kept going. So she's looking down, shaking her head at the time, I'm sure. But I put it all in and kept going. So that, we weren't out of the woods, but it was getting better. We were getting a little older and a little wiser. 2010, I broke my neck. I was racing dirt bikes. I got this. Let me see if I can dig it up. Yeah, this is what I got. This is what I got for my broken neck. What is this plaque? Anyway, that sucked because I was a quadriplegic for probably the better part of a couple of weeks. And that's no joke. I don't want to do that again for sure. But thanks to modern medicine and a wonderful surgeon, they put some steel plates in my neck. And I remember waking up and I could wiggle my toe. And I thought, okay, that's it. That's all I need. We were still running the business at the time. And I had my team move my entire office into my rehab room. And I remember having my big plotter there. And really, I couldn't do much. The recovery was slow. My left arm wasn't working. So all I could do was estimate. So all I did was just estimate. My roommate used to yell at me because my printer was running all night, and he was like, "Can you turn that printer off at night?" But we had work to do, and I wasn't going to let a broken neck stop me. So so we did. We kept going. Didn't miss a beat. Took me probably 6 months to get through all that, learn how to walk again and all that stuff. And there's some fun stories in there I'll share with you if we ever meet in person. But for now, I'll just move on to the next question. Next question. How did you get introduced to lean manufacturing? Now, this is a good one because we'd been doing woodworking now for 25 years the hard way. And I remember sitting at my desk, just like head down, covered in dust. I'm like, it can't be this hard. It has to be better than this. And I was reading the FDMC magazine, and there's an article in there by a guy named Jim Lewis. And he's like talking about this lean thing and how much better it can make things. And at the end, he puts his phone number. And I thought, all right, Jim, I'm going to show you. I'm going to call you right now, Friday at 9:00 at night with an impossible mission to, save us pretty much. And so I called him, ring, ring, ring. And sure enough, he answers the phone. And, when you see magazine articles, you think these people are famous and they don't answer phones. But now that I'm the columnist in FDMC, I realize you're just a normal person and actually you do answer your phone. But so Jim, we're talking, I tell him about all my problems, and he's like, yeah, I think I can help you. So he's like, how about I start Monday? He wanted $10,000 a week, and I had no money. But I figured I wasn't going to have any money anyway, so whatever, let's just do it. So he shows up Monday, and to shorten the story, we were producing about 5 finished cabinets a day, and just tons of work in process. It was, we thought, pretty organized. But the net result of it was 5 finished cabinets ready to ship a day. And fast forward about 4 weeks with Jim, and we were doing 54 cabinets a day with the exact same staff. And at the end of the day, it looked like nothing was going on in the shop. We had no work in process. So this is a 10x increase in productivity in 30 days. That was about the time I started believing in lean, like in a big way. There was no stopping the research and learning at that point. I mean, I read every book in the world. If it had red on the cover, I'd probably read it just in case it was a Toyota book. So down the lean rabbit hole we went, and it was nothing short of phenomenal. And anyone who would talk to me, I was like, blah, 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 lean this, lean that, and I have lots of friends that own shops, and I go there for like the weekend and help them revamp projects. And I'd always stay in touch with Jim. And I would call him and tell him the story, like, oh, hey, we were at this shop and we did this, and I showed them this. And he was always supportive and gave me advice and mentored me along the way. And then one day he calls me out of the blue, and he's like, hey, are you sitting down? I said, oh, yeah, I guess. What's up? He goes, well, I'm going to retire. Oh, great, Jim. Congratulations. You're, seat on the golf course kind of thing. And he said, but I want you to take over the consulting company. Well, I immediately said no. He said yes. I said no. He said yes. I said no. He said yes. I said yes. And now it's been 15 years of traveling all over the world, helping companies implement TPS and lean principles. So that's where I got my start. And then my start got put on steroids when I met Paul Akers. I, again, read the book 2 Second Lean, and Paul was, silly enough to put his phone number in there. And I was just like, I gotcha. So I phone him, and I have a picture somewhere. If I find it, I'll put it on the YouTube version. But I have a picture of me talking to Paul, because it was just like, oh my God, this is Paul Akers on the phone. And he had mentioned something about, he wasn't available next week because he was, dirt biking somewhere in California. Well, I happen to like dirt biking, and I was like, can I come with you? One thing led to another, and me and Paul are in the California desert riding our dirt bikes together for 30 days or 30 days for a week, sorry. And that was it. I mean, we started going to all of the lean summits. This is now where all of my friends come from, this community. And I'm not even joking. Like, almost every single friend I have now is because of lean, and it all started because of Paul. And we're at one lean summit where he's like, Brad, you have to meet Michael. He has a company called Yellow Tools, and he's just awesome. You guys are going to get along. And I'm like, sure, whatever. Like, who's this German guy? Anyway, he connects us. Hey, Michael, I'm Brad and Michael. And we both kind of were pressed for time. And Michael goes, why don't you just come visit me? And I said, sure. Well, a couple weeks later, I call him. I'm like, hey, it's Brad. We met for 8 seconds at the Lean Summit. Do you mind if I come visit you? And it was nothing short of, I don't even have words for what happened. I went there. He welcomed me into his home. He gave me anything I could ever want. Went to his factory. His factory is over the top amazing. And it's probably been 5 or 7 years now, and me and Michael are best of friends. I travel with him once a year on motorcycle trips. I go to his factory all the time, and he never, never, never stops teaching me. Once I got connected with that 2 Second Lean community, we also went on a Japan study mission. So we studied in Japan, and there was like nothing like it I've ever seen in my entire life. So if you haven't been to Japan yet, Paul still puts on these tours. I think you really need to go. And in the last probably 10 years, we're traveling all over the world. We're teaching lean. But the one thing is that's really cool is everywhere we go, I guarantee you I learn just as much as I teach. Guaranteed. So the benefits of just being in hundreds of shops have just served me so well, and I'm so thankful for that opportunity to be able to share the information I have and also glean information from all of our amazing customers. Then 2016, we rebrand from the Center for Lean Learning to Quantum Lean. Still all the exact same services, except we now have built a website that has all of the tools and stuff that a company trying to implement lean would need. So we have a Kanban card creator, we have an SOP tool, we have a production timer, which, man, I wish more people would use because it's so powerful. And the company was getting so busy. I couldn't manage both because I still had my manufacturing company and I was still doing the consulting. So at that point, I had to onboard someone, and that someone was Lynn Thompson. And I needed another lean maniac, and I knew she was passionate about lean. And so she joined in 2016, and now, we're able to serve more customers and serve them better. She does such an amazing job of all of our training. She's as good, or if not better, than I am. So that was a really good move strategically to get her on the team. And, it's been for six years now, and we're still rocking. So it's been a wild ride. Next question is, do you still have a manufacturing company? And the answer is yes. We still have 3 now, actually. We've got My Door Factory, which manufactures MDF cabinet doors. We've got Canadian Ornamental Iron Works, which manufactures solid wrought iron spiral staircases. And we have now added, in the last 2 years, Stolec machinery, and we manufacture sanding equipment. We have a sanding robot, an edge sander, so SpinBot. You can see all those cool machines. We'll plug it, stolbec.ca. And those 3, I mean, it sounds like a lot, like, oh, you must be so busy, but they intertwine so well, because at the door company, we always have the need to go faster. We want to produce higher quality, faster, with less effort, making everyone's job easier. So that led to the development of the machines that we sell now as Stolec machines. So we initially designed them for ourselves, and it just so happened that they worked so good that we're like, I think we need to tell someone about this. So we did, and as soon as we put out a YouTube video, the rest was history. And to date, we can barely make everything fast enough. So it's working out quite well, and it was obvious we solved a pretty big problem that everyone was having, and we thought maybe it was just us at the time. Next question. Why did you start building machines? Okay, so I kind of touched on that, but basically we were solving our own problems because we couldn't find what we needed out in the market. I mean, we tried there. We looked for sanding solution. There's nothing. There's brush sanders, and we'll talk about how I feel about that some other day. But outside of that, you've got brush sanders, and you have giant, like the BSA Viet machines, and there's really nothing in between for the small to medium shop. So that's what we invented for ourselves. And once we got that going and started showing people, it was obvious there was a need in the market for that. At the time, we had 12 people sanding primer, and it was just, I mean, I don't even have, on this podcast, I don't have to tell anybody about how terrible sanding primer is. We all know. So you can imagine 12 poor people grinding away. Now we have robots doing it quite happily. Okay, another question. Where did the name Stolec come from? Oh, man. Well, this came from another huge chapter in my life. I have the good fortune of becoming a dad, and my son's name is Beckett. And originally, we wanted to name the company Stolz, which in German, and why German? Because I visit my buddy Michael all the time, and I've just really adapted to that German feel. And, Germans are known for their quality. So we wanted to have a German flavor. And so Stolz means proud in German. And then Beckett came along and I was like, oh, wow, okay. Also, there's 900 companies named Stolz. So we just combined the two, Stolbeck. And so I'm proud of Beckett. So that's where that name came from. Okay, moving along. What's the biggest challenge for you in the machine space? This is a great question, because there is challenges, lots of them. And being a woodworker my whole life, the only exposure I had to the machine business was buying machines, and I bought lots of them. And our number one challenge is teaching people about single piece flow, because our machines are designed with lean in mind, and there's nothing faster than single piece flow. So it's so counterintuitive, though, especially in the woodworking industry where everybody's not quite exposed to this, hence this podcast. That's our biggest challenge, because you look at other machines, well, look at that, it's going faster, but that's only the machine that's going faster. You're not expanding that value stream to include the whole operation. That would be our biggest struggle, is actually educating people on why we do only one part at a time in our machines. And I'm a firm believer there's a machine for everybody, but the problem is people are selling the machine they have, not the right machine for the customer. And that's a real kick in the teeth, I think. I've also said no to a sale before. Someone called and wanted one of our sanding robots. And, most people be like, yeah, sure, sold. But I couldn't. I was like, okay, tell me about your company a little bit. Like, how many guys you got? What are you producing? What's your, cabinets a day, minutes per cabinet? And we got digging in a little bit. And it was obvious right away to me that the sanding robot was not going to affect their bottleneck. So if you don't affect the bottleneck, then you don't increase your throughput. If you buy a machine and don't increase your throughput, you're going to find that payment very hard to make. So I told him, unfortunately, I don't think that's the right machine for him, but I got him pointed in the right direction. Next question. What was the number one thing you learned last year? The number one thing I learned last year. I'm gonna table that question and just push pause on that and get back to it, because I think I saw a question later that said, what are a couple of your pieces of advice? And I think that will tie into that. Next one. You are arguably the most influential man in woodworking. What is your overriding purpose? Whoa. I didn't see that coming. Okay. I'm just reading the rest of the message, but, just basically talking about, having a company, then learning lean and supporting other companies, in their endeavors to go lean, and then solving some problems in the machinery business, and then sharing it with the world. So it's quite an accolade. I don't know if I'm going to take credit for that one just yet, but my overriding principle, and this is the vision statement at our company, is to improve life and character through manufacturing and with the application of lean thinking. So, that sums it up. At the end of the day, every move you make, your life should get better. And I believe that there's a natural progression of companies go through that I'm hoping that we can help and guide along the way. I wonder if I could, make a mess. Hang on. Here we go. I wonder if I could just do a quick sketch that will do nobody any good who's listening to the podcast, but might do some good on the YouTube thing. And so this is going to be a little, what I'm going to call the business continuum. And so if you can imagine a line on the page, and on the far left-hand side, you just start your business. And on the far right-hand side, you have an absolutely lights-out factory running without you. You just push the start button and everything comes out. And so, this is what I'm talking about. And so, the natural progression is you start this business, you have no idea what you're doing, and you're struggling, and that's, the first quarter of that continuum. And then you stumble upon lean. Now, here's tools and techniques that can help you improve everything you're doing without spending a dime. You do not have to spend a dime to do lean. So now you start doing lean, and lean can take you a lot of places. Michael will say hard work can take you somewhere, lean work can take you anywhere. So you discover lean as you start to move down this continuum. And let's say you get halfway down this continuum, with lean practices and principles. Well, at some point, it's very, very important to start automating. And then so now you've got the bugs worked out, you've got your culture right, you've got your products dialed in, your qualities dialed in. Now you can start to automate. And how far you can take that automation is basically depending on the type of work you're doing. But that's my overriding principle, or my purpose would be to get people from starting their business, get them on that lean journey as fast as possible. And now they have the culture and the products that they can afford to start automating, and then they start automating, and then you become very, very hard to compete with. And I think that we've created a business model and a system that can help companies go right from start right to automation. So my overriding goal is to get companies through that continuum as fast as possible with as few hardships as they can. I mean, they say a smart person learns from their mistakes, but a genius learns from others. And I made so many of them. I mean, you could learn forever from me. So that's what I would say is my major purpose. Next question. What role did your parents play in your career? Ooh, it's getting deep. My mom, she always had businesses on the side. She always had her job, but she always had little side hustles, as we would say now. And so I think that entrepreneurial spirit was always in there. And my dad, they split when I was a kid, and I just reconnected with my dad. He's like 80 years old, so he was gone my whole life. But now I'm learning about him, and turns out that this guy is a master mechanic. So some of that mechanical inclination must be hereditary. So that was my folks. Okay. After all the ups and downs in your career, what kept and keeps you motivated? Whew. Wow, these are good. I don't know if it's motivation, but I mean, like, motivation is kind of like the God, I'm struggling for words here. Motivation is something that's best done daily. It's like taking a shower, you should shower daily. You should motivate yourself daily, but I believe there has to be an overriding purpose that supersedes that keeps you going. And beyond the shadow of a doubt now, for me, it's just helping other people see and get to a space where the craft that they have can be profitable, sustainable business. Because without all the stuff that I learned along the way, like if I was still doing it the way we were doing it 15 years ago, what a grind, what a terrible, terrible career. But it doesn't have to be like that. So I think that's what motivates me, is to show the whole industry that this can be okay. What is the number one advice you would give to any woodworker? Ooh. All right. I want to say something like never give up, because I've gone through some stuff where maybe I should have given up, but I didn't. But I don't want to say never give up, because that could be terrible advice. I want to say be smart about giving up. So, for example, let me find another picture. I'm going to I just stumbled upon this today. I'll make sure I get it on the YouTube, but it's an old photo album, and it has all of the business cards of all of the businesses that I've started, and they either failed or we moved on. But there's nothing short of probably let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 companies, and that's not all of them. So I would say be smart about giving up and pivot in time, and in order to do that, I would say make sure you have a great community around you that can guide you and help you. Like if I had the mentors 20 years ago that I have now, I wouldn't have been in half the nightmare I was. My second one would be get good at lean thinking. It's free, and so few woodworkers are doing it. So why wouldn't you just take that opportunity, that one thing? Like, we're all hoping for the next big fandangle thing, the next machine to come out, the next book to come out, the next whatever. And it's like, there's this lean thing that has been going on for 100 years that hardly anyone in the woodworking industry has tapped into. So you can get an immediate leg up just by immersing yourself in lean. Number 3. So it asked me, what's your number 1 advice? I don't have one. I have more than one. 3 would be to automate. You're not going to make it if you don't. I firmly believe that. I've had my factory where we had zero automation at my factory now, where we have lots of automation, and I've seen some factories that have even more automation than us, and labor's getting harder to find, more expensive. How are you going to compete with these guys that are automating? And all we have to do is compare ourselves to the automotive industry. There's no comparison. They're fully automated, and we are still using the same table saw we used 100 years ago. Another one that has, served me well would be own your building. Make sure you own your building. Do anything you can to own that building. And number, what am I at? 5, build a team. You hear people say this all the time. You're probably tired of hearing it, but oh my God, like to date right now, I probably have the best team around me that I've ever had. And it is unbelievable what's happening. So do what you got to do and clear your roster and build a phenomenal team. Yeah. Take those 5. Start there. We'll keep going. Hey, we're down to the last 2 questions here, so we'll be wrapping this up. My biggest regret. Oh God. I do have one, and it is the biggest one by a landslide, bigger than any mistake I've ever made on the factory floor. Was my mom always wanted a yellow Corvette, and I didn't make it in time to get her that car. And I just thought, my whole life I'd always pictured just leaving it in the driveway one day, and yeah, I didn't get there. So sorry, Mom. That's definitely my biggest regret. That was it. Oh, one more. What are your podcasts going to be about? Great question to wrap this up. So podcasts are going to be about anything and everything woodworking. We're going to talk about problems. We're going to do interviews. We're going to give advice. We're going to do training. We're going to talk about observations. We're going to run through plant layouts. I mean, anything that can help our audience, we are going to go all in on it for you in 2024 and beyond. So hopefully you'll stay tuned to this podcast, because it is not going to stop. We want to move the needle for woodworking companies, and not just a little bit. I'm talking, we want to make you part of our community, and we want to blast forward into the future. So unlike this one, which is at 47 minutes, we are going to try and keep them to 30-minute segments so that you can play them at your morning meetings and have your whole team learn from what we've got going on here. So I guess that wraps up this podcast. It was great getting to know you, or at least spilling my guts for everybody on here. God, I hope none of that hurt my business in any way, particularly failing college. Anyway, everybody, thank you so much for listening. Stay tuned for episode 2. I think we're going to release them every Sunday morning, so you can enjoy your Sunday morning coffee and a podcast, and you're going to learn everything we got to give you on the shop floor. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and enjoy the rest of your week. Let's go make some improvements.